And what's up, YouTube? This is also a live Q&A. We're going to be doing live in two places. So Facebook Live as well as YouTube Live. And told everybody 1 p.m. So we're just going to be live shortly. We will actually start answering questions shortly. But of course, this is here for you. We are here to answer questions for you guys. It has nothing to do for us, right? So we are here literally to answer any of the questions that you may have. And of course, we start at 1 p.m. So if you want to start asking questions, feel free. I mean, you're here early, so we might as well jump on in and start asking questions for you guys. But again, we're in two places. We're on joincfe.com/Facebook as well as joincfe.com/YouTube. And I was told recently that all of those letters have to be lowercase. That's just one of the things that we had actually built in there. Bring your questions. This is all about answering questions for you guys. I'm really excited about this. Imagine this potential. Like 10 years ago, doing live events like this would have been so expensive to do, let alone being able to actually get questions from you, right? So like having questions and doing these live events on a 1-to-1 scale is amazing. Like you guys could do it too, right? And it's not reserved for anybody anymore, which is really, really cool. And if you have like issues with audio, like if it's not loud enough on Facebook, or if you hear a fan, that's just coming from my computer. So let me know. So then I'll shut down YouTube. Essentially, the YouTube streaming is taking a little bit bandwidth from the computer itself. But yeah, this should be pretty fun, guys. I'm really excited about this overall, because I think like the idea of working directly with you guys in real time is really interesting. It's probably not nearly as good as a full production, just because then we can do all these types of things, but that's all going to depend on you guys. If you guys want to hear a lot of things, or if you have a lot of questions, then it's going to make a big difference as far as how this actually goes. So we just got a few more minutes before we actually jump into the questions and answers. I see that some of you guys are watching. Please ask some questions. If you are on Facebook, ask them right on Facebook Live. If you are on YouTube, you can ask them right in the YouTube live chat as well. Because again, we are in two places, and we are here literally for you guys. This is to answer questions for you guys, to help you get your projects going. So anything that you're asking is game. Just go ahead and ask it, and we will go ahead and give you the best answer or advice that we can, whether that is launching your projects, or getting the code, or how to hire people, or anything that you want as far as code related, entrepreneurship related. So again, we're here for you. So this is what we're doing this for, is you guys directly. So one of the questions that I had on YouTube a little bit ago was, can you make a video tutorial about Angular JS and Django? Well, we aren't going to actually announce any new products here live. What we are going to be talking about, though, is answering questions for you guys. Of course, I'm going to say that a million times before we actually start getting some questions from you guys. But Angular JS is something we're really interested in. It is an awesome front-end framework, but it is not something that we have announced yet that we're going to be doing. But Django absolutely can be built using Angular JS. Like, they can work together hand in hand using the Django REST framework, which is something we use quite a bit. We have it on joincfe.com/projects, and that itself is a project that we're actually going to be bringing out on YouTube as well for our blog. If you've been watching joincfe.com, you would definitely see that is something that's on the radar for us, because we want to show you guys how to build an API for your blog itself. Roast, I think. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name exactly. You're on YouTube. I think that's a pretty good question, and it's something to note. I mean, like, Angular JS has been very popular for building front end or modern web applications, because it's really useful. Okay, so as far as asking questions, please do. I see that we got some of you guys on here. Ask anything that you want to know. Again, this is a live Q&A. This is literally just to answer questions for you guys. We're not going to be building projects here. We're not going to be doing any of that stuff. We're literally going to be answering your guys' questions, because that's what this is all about. If we don't have questions on here, I'm going to jump on codingforentrepreneurs.com and check out some of the recent questions that we have on there so we can ask some of these questions. Okay, so I see this error a lot. It's called the template does not exist error. This error usually has to do with how you organize either your template directories or if you did the wrong actual naming process of product list or whatever the template name is. And it's officially 1 o'clock, so if you guys have questions, please ask them. That's what we're doing this for, is to answer your questions. And one of the questions that I've always thought about and something that you guys should consider is, why should you code and why should you even care to learn? Now, first of all, when you get into coding, you're not done. As soon as you know stuff, you're not done. Coding will always evolve, and that's something that's really, really exciting about it, is because you will always see new technologies that are coming out that are just better than previous technology. So as a developer, you'll constantly have to be pushing yourself to learn new things, which is really, really awesome. Learning how to code in particular is something that, if you actually plan out what you're going to do as far as building an application, learning how to code will help you do that, right? So if you're a business person and you're in management and you want to build an app, but you don't know how the code works, it's going to be very, very hard for you to do it. So even if you only know a little bit about how to code, the managing process of knowing how to code is really, really valuable, especially when you're building things that you've never done before. The other side of it is just how you see and think about the world, right? So there's this famous line that's saying software is eating the world. So that means that everything that can be automated will be automated, and it will be done so through code, right? So we're gonna be seeing this huge transition of everything that's annoying about life is going to be less annoying because somebody's going to program it to make it just that much better and more powerful for us. Okay, so Max, thanks for the question. What is the approach to update database through JavaScript, Angular, or jQuery in Django project? When is it suitable to do so, and when should we only use Django resources? So what is the approach to use JavaScript to change database related stuff? So if you're using a front-end framework, that is something that's not the back-end, Django is the back-end framework. If you're using anything on the front end, whether it's JavaScript or you use Java or Swift, so Java or Swift or Objective-C can all be considered front-end clients. They're interacting with the database. What you're going to need is a RESTful API service. Now, this is true whether you're using Django or Ruby on Rails or some other back-end framework. You need a RESTful API service so it can actually interact with the front end. And then those languages will have some sort of HTTP protocol requests that they can do to actually work with the things that are on the back-end service. That's a good question. Thanks for asking. Okay, so in Go, can you make a project for a more Ajaxed approach, uploading files, in particular images, using Drop.js or similar? Thanks for the suggestion. That's a really solid suggestion. If you could actually add that to joincfe.com/suggest and add it or upvote it, that's one of those things that we're going to be working on as far as a collective. Again, we're not announcing any new products today or projects today, like tutorials. We're not announcing any of those new stuff. We're just answering questions mostly, but I really do appreciate the comment. That is a really good one. And now let's check on YouTube. Let's see what's going on in here. Alex Cons on YouTube. You can make questions here or Facebook, either one. We will definitely get to both of those. So those of you guys on YouTube or Facebook, you can ask questions in either location. It's completely up to you. Boone, let's see. Will you spend more time teaching updated core Python concepts? It'll help us better understand Django. So what do you mean by core Python concepts? You want to learn more about the basics of Python? Is that what you're getting at? If so, 30 Days of Python is something that we have in the pipeline, and it is something that we will be releasing. 30 Days of Python is essentially going to give you a lot of those Python basics to really fully and better understand Python. Yeah, thanks for the question. That's a good question. If you're referring to other kind of Python concepts, please let us know, and we can kind of advise you there. Yeah, so going back to that why code question, It's okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, basics, great. Yes, sorry for everyone else. It is the basics. 30 days of Python will be the basics, and that's what will be covered. But going back to that like why code question, this is something that like I think is very relevant for everyone today, not just coders. Because the other side of it is perspective, right? So if you are not a coder, and this is something I hope that you tell your friends, because I would imagine you guys watching are coders, or at least very interested in it. The friends of yours that aren't coding, or kids that are being raised, or even adults or older adults that like don't have a coding background, it is something that we all need, and it has to do with perspective for problem solving, right? So if us tech people are the only ones solving these problems through code, it's not really conducive for what the future actually needs, right? Like there's so many things that can be solved through code that just developers or technical people won't even touch for a very long time, and that gives you a big opportunity. If you aren't that technical but you are entrepreneurial, you can actually be able to jump in and make a difference very quickly with just some basic software automation. But we will see a huge shift in that in organizations all across the board, because if you think about it, the computer can process things faster than we ever could, and it's only getting better and better. So if we make all these rules for this computer, eventually so many of the things that are like step by step and just like really boring mundane tasks will go away, because somebody will program them away to where then as a race or as humanity, we will then be able to evolve to solve bigger and better problems versus like, you know, the fastest line or the fastest queue at the grocery store or something like that. Like those little things will probably eventually go away quite a bit. Cool. So let's see. Alex Collins got a few questions for you here. Let's see. What do you think of Python's popularity increase? Incentive for more Django beginners. So what do I think why is Python getting more popular? I think it's getting more popular itself. I'm not sure if this is what you're asking me, but I think Python's getting more popular because it's so easy to learn, right? I really, really think that in comparison to other programming languages. Now, as a programming language or programming languages in general, approaching them can be a little daunting because it's something that most people like have a mental block about. I really think that it's like so many people identify with, I'm not good at computers, so I can never learn programming, which is obvious. I think it's like absolute crap. Like computers, people get stuck in that mindset of like, I'm not good at computers. That is just wrong. That's a fixed mindset. Instead, you should help them, you know, think about it as a growth mindset. We all can grow and get better. We've done it since we were kids. I mean, you started to learn, you started to speak, and then, you know, so on and so forth. So I think Python, sorry, that got a little off track, but Python itself is getting more popular because it is so approachable for beginners. I absolutely believe that. And Django is becoming more popular and is really good for beginners also because of Python. If Python's getting more popular, well, there's not that many web frameworks to pick from using Python. There's Django and Flask, and there's a few others, but those are the main ones. Django, I think, is the most powerful, and it has the strongest community. So like those things in combined are the reason that's being pushed so much. And Django's ability to work with front-end clients, you know, like an AngularJS site or an iOS app or an Android app. Great question. Thanks. I really appreciate it. Apparently more than C# now. So Python is apparently more popular than C# now. Yeah, I would say so. It's really hard to say exactly those numbers because, and you said in revenue or openings, and this is on YouTube if you guys are on that channel. Revenue and openings, like as far as jobs are concerned and stuff like that, there probably still is a lot of demand for C# developers, but a lot of businesses are moving towards what's modern and what's happening right now, and Django is definitely one of those things. Thanks for the questions, Alex. Really appreciate it. So let's see. Let's go back. I'm jumping back into Facebook. I gotta scroll down here a little bit, and in recent tutorials, you are even faster going through the code than ever. Could you slow down a little bit in the tutorials? We need to wrap our hands around new stuff. Ingo, thank you. I realize I'm really fast. I know that. I talk fast all the time, especially when I'm like really getting pumped into something, just like what we're doing right now. This is exciting to me, so I definitely tend to move a little bit fast. So one of the things I would say is, in this case, some people really, really like the fast because then they can watch it a couple times and really get it down. And then there is an option on YouTube as well as codingforentrepreneurs.com to actually slow it down. You can slow it down quite a bit to actually make sure that I'm not going too fast for you guys. And that is something that I think is really, really valuable and really important. And that's why I'm doing these question and answers, is to help you get answers done. So, in the things that are going a little fast, I can help answer those questions here as well. The other thing is like just how I am naturally. This is how I get. So in order for me to slow down, I think it's gonna take away from the quality a little bit. But I want to hear from you guys what you think there, because this is just kind of how I am. Okay, so the next one. Can you build a project for a chat application using Django? Thanks for the suggestion, guys. For product suggestions or project suggestions themselves, please go to joincfe.com/suggest. That right there is where we are going to be doing all of our product suggestions. This live Q&A, again, it's more of like answering questions that aren't necessarily related to suggestions. If you see on there that suggestion's already there, please upvote it as it is. Okay, cool. So this is from YouTube, Vincent Cho. Which Python Django programming resources do you recommend outside CFE? Which coders do you look up to? Wow, that's a really good question. Coders that I look up to, the Django developers, Jacob Kaplan, I think his name is. He's one of the guys that is just like pushing the envelope big time. So like, what do I recommend outside of CFE? Going on Stack Overflow and reading through popular Django projects, like the Django REST framework or Django Crispy Forms, and like reading through their code and trying to reverse engineer their code themselves. That is a really, really useful tool for you to do. So I'm more of a fan of the authors that make these popular like open source plugins, because they allow you to do so much with it. That's a really good question. Danny Greenfield, PY Danny, he's really cool too. He's written a book called 2 Scoops of Django. Definitely recommend checking that out if you want to learn or read more about Django itself. He's definitely one of the leaders in there. And I believe his wife is also very active in the Django community as well. And of course, if you go to like DjangoCon, which is the Django conference, or PyCon, which is the Python conference, those places you'll meet a lot of people as well. But realistically, as far as looking up to, I'm constantly just pushing myself as to what I can do and using the documentation as well as reading other people's code to see what I can really build as that next step. And also you guys, you guys have really helped, as a community, have really helped push what Coding for Entrepreneurs is and what it can do, because you ask such ridiculously great questions so often, and you point out the small errors that happen in the recording process, because I plan out the lectures, but I don't like go step by step on like lines as far as how these lectures are going to come through. They're just really going to be lectures that we're doing, kind of from scratch. Like it's like, I know I want to build a class-based view, or I want to build a create view or something like that. I go through and actually just build it and make that happen. Okay, so Alex Cons on. Let me go back. Dries for entrepreneurs. What is the advantage of programming yourself over online tools like Wix? So Wix is a website creator. Website creators are fairly popular for non-technical people. My biggest thing is flexibility and your ability to move. So if you write the code yourself, you can move like a different server and have no problems. Whereas you use something like Wix. I actually haven't used Wix, but I would believe that it'd be in their best interest to keep you on their platform, right? They don't want to lose you as a customer, definitely not, but they also want to make it difficult for you to move to another platform. Shopify is actually really smart about this too. Shopify is a e-commerce solution that you just kind of plug and play. But once your business starts to rely on another platform, then you're stuck with that platform, and then doing that transition is really, really hard. So that's where something like Wix is a little tough. Okay, so somebody mentioned on YouTube also concerning speed. I'm watching vids on 1.5 speed, so a little bit faster than I speak, and then just repeating what I do. So there's definitely a different school of thought of each one. Okay, so let's go back into Facebook and take a look here. If you create a separate Python app that sends requests to some external server, and it's supposed to analyze data and show it in Django project, where should it be placed and how should it be registered? Okay, so I'm not really sure what you're asking, Max. If you are asking like you would have a Django project and a Python project, and you want them to interact with each other. Well, the Django one would have a RESTful API, and then the Python project can use Python requests to do those requests. If you're saying, do you have a Python script inside of a Django project and you want to use that Python script for the app, you can build a view to handle that stuff. That's a tricky question itself. Hopefully that answers it for you. If it doesn't, please clarify. So back into Facebook Live. I see that you have Django and PhoneGap tutorial on codingforentrepreneurs.com, but it was updated a year ago. Are you planning on doing a more recent version, let's say with Ionic, for example? That's a great question. Like I said earlier in this live chat, we aren't actually going to be announcing new projects yet. But PhoneGap itself is something I'm really, really interested in, and it is something I do plan on revisiting. Ionic framework, which is a really cool framework for those of you guys who haven't checked it out. It is awesome. So like definitely check it out if you guys are really interested in the PhoneGap stuff. And if you are, go to codingforentrepreneurs.com/suggest or joincfe.com/suggest and upvote the AngularJS plus Django stuff, because AngularJS and Ionic really work very well together. So it makes sense that those two things would actually go together. Eric, I admire the speed and clarity. I was wondering if you've played with React and tried putting React on Django. Thanks, Eric. Really appreciate it. See, like this is what's tricky for me. It's like I'm just gonna stick with what I'm good at, I think, and go the speed that I go. If I slow down or speed up, I think it's going to make it harder for me, and it's not going to come off as well. Where I get responses like what Eric just said, and saying that he likes the speed, and then I get other responses saying that they don't like the speed. So it's kind of hard to please everybody in that sense. And luckily, YouTube as well as Coding for Entrepreneurs, we have the tools to make you be able to speed it up or slow it down. As far as React, absolutely, I played around with it. And it is something that I've tried for sure, and it is growing in popularity. To me, I'm more interested in AngularJS and Angular 2 versus React. That's my own personal preference, but the market will decide which one does even better. AngularJS is just one of those things that is pretty solid. Okay, so back into YouTube. Ionic and Django is the best combination ever. Yes, thank you, Alex. I think that's pretty interesting as a topic. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so do you know much about Django app deployment on Docker? I've played around with it a little bit, but I haven't gone into it so much that it is something that I could teach on quite yet. But I think that Docker itself is a very powerful system, and we'll see a lot more of it in the future. Hopefully, if those guys at Docker are watching, we can actually get together and do something, because that would be a lot of fun. So, anyways, there's that. And then, how often do you plan to schedule live chats? Vincent Chow, this is a really good question. Live chats are going to be based off of like interaction. So right now we have pretty good interaction. There's quite a lot of stream coming through, and I'm going to try and get through as many of them as possible. So I think live chats add a lot to both sides of this, right? I'm learning a lot about you guys, and hopefully I'm answering a lot of questions for you too. So I am really interested in doing a lot more live chats. And if you guys are interested in doing a lot more live chats, go to joincfe.com/suggest, look for the live chat suggestion, and upvote that thing too. Of course, that requires a free account, but again, it's a free account. You don't have to be a subscribed member to do it. But that is really interesting. What about implementing sockets in Django? I'm assuming that you mean WebSockets. This is, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your name. I believe it is a Russian name. This is coming from YouTube. And I'm really interested to hear that pronunciation. The guy that asked that, please, if you could send me a link on how to pronounce that name, that would be really cool, because I'd love to learn how to pronounce those kinds of names. And I apologize if it's not Russian. Very much do. Excuse my ignorance on that. Michael. Oh, okay. Oh, Michael. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it. Okay. So, Michael, WebSockets, Django channels. Check out that framework. I believe it just came out in Django version 1.10. So right now we're on version 1.9. So the next version, I believe, will have Django sockets built into it, which is really awesome. Okay, so I skipped one over here. I'm new to web development, so which language should I learn first? This is a great question. Thanks for asking, Tung. I really believe that learning Python as a programming language is a really good language to learn first, and then learning Django as a framework. So Python is fairly basic. So you can check out Codecademy's Python or even our Python. There's definitely a lot of basic YouTube Python stuff out there, so check that stuff out. Vincent Chow, totally agree with you. Python. So that is a really good programming language to start. JavaScript is a lot harder to learn at first if you don't know Python. Once you know Python, learning JavaScript's a lot easier. Now I'm going to go back to the Facebook questions. We got a lot here that we're kind of missing. Okay, so your tutorials are great and helped me a lot. What are you planning for the next tutorials? Do you plan to anything in the same format, but not related to code? Amini? Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. I'm really bad at names all around. But Amini, I think you're asking me. Okay, so our next tutorials, we have 2 things in the works right now, and that is 30 Days of Python. So it's a very basic Python programming class. We're testing a lot of different stuff there. And then the other one is a RESTful API service for our blog project. So what we did in Try Django 1.9, as well as Advancing the Blog, which are both on YouTube as well as our website, we're building a RESTful API service on top of that. So do I plan anything in the same format but not related to code? What are you asking exactly? Like, what are you wanting to see? Are you talking about like entrepreneurial things? Are you talking about marketing? Like, what is it there that you're looking to learn? Is it a new thing to learn? And I'm assuming that's what you're asking me, but it's a really good question. Something to think about. Please clarify so I can answer that for you. Michael, one last question from me. Are you planning on making an IRC to Coding for Entrepreneurs users? It'd be a good idea to have a place to chat with people that are doing your tutorials so we can learn by helping others. Wow, that's a great question, and it is something that I think you can do now, actually. So you can actually help others by answering questions that are asked on Coding for Entrepreneurs on YouTube. That will help you learn a lot. It really, really will. Like, your skill level, even if I already answered it or somebody on our team has already answered that question, you absolutely can still gain a lot from looking at those questions, answering them yourself. That is something that is very important, I think. Boone, what are some measures we can take to secure our Django site? There's a lot of measures for this. I would definitely take a look at Django's documentation for what they suggest in security and following that to a T. But I mean, some of the obvious things, like don't share your secret key. It tells you not to. Just don't do it. Don't share your server passwords. Like if you're using Heroku, don't share that password to get on Heroku. Don't share your database passwords. And a lot of those things, like your secret key and your database passwords and stuff like that, depending on what host you're working with, you can put those in as environment variables. So basically, they are in the environment for the server, but like if you share the code with another developer, they wouldn't necessarily see those keys specifically. Armin, I hope that's, excuse me, Amini, is that your name? Yes? No? Maybe? Amini? Okay, cool. Any hacks for entrepreneurs? Cool. I am interested in that stuff, absolutely. I mean, I identify more with being an entrepreneur than a coder. Entrepreneurship is like my lifeblood. Coding is just like the tool that helps me be an entrepreneur, I guess. And that's thus Coding for Entrepreneurs. Thanks for the question and the suggestion as well. REST API is really, really exciting. Cool. So Alex Collins, I can't remember where, but I read an article that Django is the most secure web framework, excluding plugins. That's really interesting. It might be true. I don't actually know. I'm not a security expert. I do know that the Django community itself is a very strong community, and that core development team is really, really awesome, and they're making some really, really cool things for the future of web development. And as far as the backend system, it's like, as far as I know, it's very secure. But being that it's software, there is always a chance that it's just a single point of failure that may or may not happen. And one of those things might be developer error, right? Like I said, the secret keys and sharing passwords and stuff like that. Like, that might be the reason there's a security flaw, not because of Django, but because of that. That happens actually a lot in software development itself. Tung, if I learn Python, do I still need to learn HTML or CSS? Well, Tung, if it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, if you're trying to build web applications, yes, you need to know HTML and CSS. I started with HTML and CSS like 15 years ago, and it was very basic, not super exciting. In fact, it was downright boring. Where actually, I think programming languages are very, like, a lot more exciting because it extends the ability of what you can do. HTML and CSS pretty much just help with the structure and the way it looks. It doesn't really do that much to functionality. Granted, there are exceptions to that, so I'm not gonna say that there isn't, but I think I look at HTML and CSS more like painting a house versus designing the framework of the house, so the wood and all that stuff, and then building in the plumbing and the electrical, and like doing all the things that a house needs to do. I look at programming more on that side. Of course, it's not a perfect analogy, but like to me, I'm not that interested in painting. That's why we use Bootstrap, right? Bootstrap is a very good front-end framework that takes a lot of that work out for us. But there's other developers or other web designers. There's web designers that have that love doing the front-end design and how it looks and just the aesthetics of it all. And that is something that you might want to consider doing and definitely learning about, because you should stick with what you're really good at. And I like really building the logic stuff, and that's what I'm good at as far as designing and making some cool looking site. Cool. You're welcome. I'm glad you're clear now, Tung. That's really good. Okay, so Steph, what do you think about a video series more focused on project management, deployment strategies, maintenance, data migrations, presentation of interesting tools? Video series focused on project management. When you're saying project management, do you mean you're not doing the code yourself? You're actually hiring somebody and working with them there? If so, that's a pretty interesting thing. I think that is something that us as developers, and let's say, for instance, you're more aligned with the entrepreneurial side, and you want to learn how to code, but you don't want to do everything, which I've worked with so many people that are like that. The project management side is really, really interesting. But hopefully, once you already know some of the code, if you've gone through enough projects, you wouldn't really need me to show you how to manage it. You could see some tactics and stuff like that, but if you go on Upwork.com, which is a really cool place to be a freelancer for one, so if you've gone through all of our Django stuff, there's a good chance that you could probably be a freelancer on there, at least for more of the basic projects, and you should apply to things that you can accomplish. And then the other side of it is, if you hire somebody on Upwork, you should have an idea of like what you're working towards and what you're going to be doing at that point, that it will make that management process a lot easier. But as far as like suggestions on how we're going to do that, that is something that's pretty interesting. I'm not certain if that's what we're going to get into quite yet, but it is something that's really interesting. And while we're talking about this, if you guys want to see more of this live stuff, please comment below, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. Just comment on this video, because this live stuff is for you guys, and we want to know and make sure that this is something that you want to see more on a regular basis. And also the project management stuff that we just went through. If you want to see something like that happen, let us know on joincfe.com/suggest. That is the really like kind of democratic way to have suggestions happen, where you guys log in, you can upvote certain things, and all that. Cool. So we've got Colin Anders. How do you think Django will fare with regard to its roadmap alongside other similar frameworks like Ruby on Rails? I don't actually follow that much about Ruby on Rails. I follow a lot about Django because Django's like my thing. But I'm going to let the market decide with this stuff. So if Django starts to fade and Ruby on Rails just dominates it, naturally you might have to shift that way. I don't see that happening because Python as a programming language, I think, is overall a more useful skill to have, because SpaceX is using it to launch rockets, Pixar uses it for their animation software, and then Internet of Things devices like the Raspberry Pi, they have Python on there. So Python itself is used in all of these areas, where I'm not sure if Ruby is used to the same degree. I'm pretty sure it's not. So I think as a web framework, Django is going to be around for a while. But again, the market will show us what happens. I mean, I think I would be more concerned with Node.js taking over Ruby on Rails and Django than anything, because it's JavaScript, and JavaScript is pretty strong and a powerful language. So, but I still think that Django has the edge even there. But that's my personal opinion. I would say watch what the market happens, and we will adapt with that, because we're entrepreneurs, and also as a coder, you have to adapt as well. So even if you're an entrepreneur or not, you have to adapt with what the software or the technology needs, because there's a lot of advantageous reasons to do that. Cool. Okay, so let's see. Quas Rum, I think your name is. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. My friend told me that Ruby on Rails is better than Django because it gives more freedom. Is this true? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure they are, as far as freedom is concerned, they're like roughly the same. I'm not positive on that one, but they're both web frameworks and they both serve very similar functions. How they serve those functions are different, but I've never heard like Ruby on Rails or Django being less or more free. Ruby on Rails and Django versus like WordPress, Ruby on Rails and Django I think are built to be more flexible than something like WordPress. But as far as free, that's an interesting thing. No, that's not true. Okay, so we got a lot of jobs. Michael's telling us there's a lot of jobs in his region. That's pretty cool. Justin, do you prepare your projects before doing tutorials, or do you do them on the fly? So am I recording my tutorials like after doing a lot of preparation, or am I just doing them? So it's a combination of things, right? In some cases, I just do them because there's a lot of things like if you watch Try Django 1.9 and you watched it after, let's say, like the Serve Up membership project, you'll see that I do a lot of the things over again, right? It's not like new stuff necessarily, but I might introduce new concepts. And my belief is that if you do the basic stuff over and over, you'll really, really start to understand those things. So for the really basic stuff, I do not prepare it. For the more advanced things, like in, I think, the digital market where we create an auto thumbnail, yeah, I did a bunch of research to make sure that worked perfectly, and actually I had to re-record several times because there was just errors in the software, and sometimes I have to edit things. You might see it skip a little bit. So sometimes I just do it on the fly. Sometimes I actually plan it out. And that's usually on a per lecture basis. It's not the whole project. The whole project itself, I already have a roadmap in my mind as to where I want to go. And as you've seen, we've built stuff that pretty much already exists in the world already, right? It's not like, and that's for a very specific reason, which I'll get to in a second. But if you already have an idea of where you want to go, building it's going to be a lot easier. And the reason we do stuff that already exists is so we all can like imagine where it's going to go. Like even from the get-go, I can say, "Oh, we're building an e-commerce site." You already pop in your mind. You already kind of have an idea of what an e-commerce site should look like and should run. So then we don't have to think too much about the strategy of something that never existed before, because that then gets a very, very complicated as far as like what you're going to be working on. Yeah, great question though. I appreciate that. Thanks, Michael. Are there any changes you'd like to see being made to Django? That's a good question. I think if there was a templating engine for a lot of the JavaScript front-end things, that would be really cool. But that might be a little tricky. That's something that would be really nice, though, because the Django template system itself is really good, and they do have support for other templating engines, but it's not necessarily native. They just offer the support, so they allow third-party developers to do it, which is actually pretty cool. So there's that. Real-time stuff, like having more emphasis on real-time things. So like, when can us Django developers build a real-time application like what we're doing here? We have YouTube as well as Facebook. This is all real-time. This is not just video, but it's also the chat. So all that stuff's as real-time as it possibly can be. So that's really interesting. Thanks for that question, Alex. Let's see. Let's jump on Facebook again. Okay, so how do you think Django will fare? Oh, we already talked about that one. All right. React Native is greater than Ionic. Eric, that's an interesting take. Thanks for that suggestion. I'm in a coding boot camp right now, coding Dojo, and took to learn Python and Django, mean stack, and now Ruby on Rails. I see some wonderful syntactic parallels between Python and Ruby. It's been said Ruby on Rails is the easiest to learn, but Python as a language is more powerful. I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting take. Like, to me, if you find Ruby on Rails easier to learn, stick with it and get really good at that. To me, I found Django a lot easier to learn, as was Python. So I stuck with that and got good at it. And now that I have this, I have absolute confidence that if I needed to switch to Ruby on Rails, I could. And that's true with any other programming language. And that'd be true for you guys too. So pick one, stick with it, and get good at it. Okay, so next one. Maybe you are planning to make a tutorial about Django or Angular. Realize some tutorials have made sites more interactive with JS, jQuery, for example, live char or something. It would be really great. Live chat. Okay. So yeah, I mean, like I said, we're not announcing any new projects that we're going to be doing. We have 2 things in the pipeline that we already said, and that's 30 Days of Python, as well as the Django REST framework one for the blog. So the blog API project. Those are the 2 things that we're definitely are working on. As far as Angular or React, those JavaScript libraries are something that we're very interested in. So I do definitely note that you guys are also very interested in that too. Cool. So, and yeah, I began with Flask thinking Django was complex. I tried it one day and understood its structure and workflow in a day. Yeah, Flask is supposed to be a lot easier than Django. I haven't used Flask a lot, but Django has a lot more built in, and it's just like a lot. I mean, it's just ready out of the box. Like a lot of it is ready out of the box. Cool. Okay, guys. So if there aren't any more questions, so we're going to wrap this up here in just a moment. Thank you so much for you guys that have attended. If you want to see more, definitely subscribe, whether it is to our Facebook live stream or on YouTube. So joincfe.com/YouTube, all lowercase, will take you to our YouTube channel. If you subscribe there, you will know about our live YouTube events. And YouTube, on the other hand, not like Facebook, is we can actually do live step-by-step tutorials, which is something that might be pretty cool to check out. Facebook Live is something that we're just trying out. I think if anything, hopefully Facebook Live, we can start to do screencasts, so live screencasts, that'd be pretty cool. So we could do it on Facebook as well as YouTube. But doing it in 2 places is not really that needed, but it is nice for everyone that is watching. Colin, Ingo, Max, Harshit, thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for the questions, guys. Whoa, okay. Kind of a weird question or response on YouTube side. That just completely threw me off. Michael, thank you so much. Jeremy, you have a question. If you ask a question soon, I will answer it for you because you just got on here. I know we didn't really announce this live one on YouTube. We just announced it on Facebook. Live step by step. Yes, please. Thanks, Jason. Eric, absolutely. I guess I should introduce myself more often. I don't do it. My name is actually Justin, and it's Justin Mitchell. Thank you, though. I get called Jason all the time, and I have a good friend named Jason who gets called Justin all the time. I guess it's just a common thing. But yeah, Eric, live step by step. Good to hear. If you guys do want to see those live step by step stuff, definitely check out joincfe.com/suggest and upvote those things. Don't be sorry. It's okay. If you were listening to the whole thing, I've pronounced a lot of people's names very, very poorly. Eric, your name just happens to be one that is fairly common to me. Yeah. So, anyways, Jeremy, if you don't have a question, I think we're going to be wrapping up here in just a moment. Any other questions? Yeah, I think this was a lot of fun, guys. This is really cool to be able to sit here and talk with you guys. Okay, cool. So Jeremy asked, this is another little bonus question, I guess. Jeremy said, I recently left my job to pursue a career in coding entrepreneurship. I would like to build a lightweight app that I can monetize quickly. Not sure about the feasibility, but do you have any advice on this or resources you could point me on the topic? Okay, so what you have to think about is, Amini, thank you. Have a good day. You too. I'm glad you watched. Richard, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so back to Jeremy. You have to think about this as a long-term play. I know you want to make money like yesterday. I think everybody does, right? You want to make money as soon as you possibly can. But when it comes to building something of value to the world that people will pay you for, sometimes it takes time, and sometimes it takes a long time. So you want to have that in mind. So what you can be doing right now is you can watch anything and everything you can to actually build these projects. So like Coding for Entrepreneurs, that's why we exist. We go through so many projects, and you can learn so much from our current projects as well as our archive stuff. It might be older versions of Django, but there's still very valid lessons in there. We only archived it because they're old versions of Django, and we've updated them or added new projects out there that you can learn from. But you can absolutely, if you spent the next month, let's say, or, well, let's say like 2 months, went through every project on Coding for Entrepreneurs. Maybe it'd take longer than 2 months, but let's just say you went through every project on Coding for Entrepreneurs and every Django project in particular, so a web application. You went through all of those. You would have a really, really solid base of Django knowledge, and you could start getting work right away on Upwork.com right after that to actually be a freelancer doing a lot of these things over again. Like if somebody needs an e-commerce site in Django, I mean, there's so much done in the e-commerce 2 project that you could actually turn around and use that. And I mean, that's what it's there for. It's allow you to turn around and use it. So that's a good question. But really, long term, you have to think long term. I mean, does everyone want to make a lot of money today? Absolutely. But like, if you want to build a cathedral, you have to start with the first brick, and then you have to do 100 layers of bricks, and then another layer, and then another layer, and it's just going to slowly start stacking, and eventually it'll be done. And then like, I mean, that's a long project, and building applications and building value for the world can absolutely take a long time. And so it depends on if you are committed to it. And if you're really committed to it and you're really good, Jeremy, or any of you guys out there, like show it to the world. I mean, like for example, if I was a decent developer and I didn't want to teach online like I am, but I couldn't get any jobs for some reason, whether it's Upwork or like at meetups or something like that, I would do it for free. I would reach out to businesses that I want to work with and literally offer my services for free. Actually do all of those things for free and prove and provide value for them, because then you can turn around and use that same application that solved a problem for somebody or a business and then use it as part of your portfolio. Or that business might turn around and go, wow, we can't lose you. We need you. So here, we'll hire you. You are hired. You're part of the team. And that doesn't matter where you are. Some businesses, it might matter. Some businesses might be like, nope, sorry, you have to be here every day, versus you can be 5,000 miles away. Other businesses, and a lot more businesses, are going to be like the earlier one, where they'll allow you to be wherever you need to be. Cool. So there's that. And Michael, you might need to build 15 to 20 or 20 to 50 projects to get one successful. I would actually say I would give you one more higher than that. You might have to build 100 or 150 projects to make one successful. But that experience will help you so much. It might not feel like it while you're going through it, but again, if you think back to that, like building a cathedral, a brick cathedral, you have to lay each brick by brick, and when you're doing it by yourself, it's going to take a lot longer, you know. But I would say you're welcome, Jeremy. Absolutely. And just remember that like these tools, this skill is very much in demand. So luckily, when it comes to building software, it is much more valuable than, say, like trying to make like videos for advertisements like that. I mean, unless you have unless you have a very strong skill in that. But like coding and software, like that has more demand than like a videographer at this point. The skill level, it takes you to be a really, really good videographer, where even just an okay developer can probably get some work. So there's that. Cool. We should ask you more questions on entrepreneurship. Vincent, absolutely. I totally am. I love entrepreneurship. That's what I'm about. So please ask more questions. I realize we're keep going. It's because you guys are asking so many good questions. I love this. Thanks so much for watching. This is awesome. Can you show us how to use the built-in Django serializers instead of the Django REST framework? Austin, I'm not sure why you want to do this. I believe even the Django core development team says to use the Django REST framework because it's pretty awesome. And don't use TastyPie. Don't use it anymore. It's gone. TastyPie is another RESTful API service. Cool. So, is there any other questions? I don't think so. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I had a lot of fun doing this, and it's just a really exciting time to be an entrepreneur as well as a coder. You pick either one because like it's such a great and interesting time to build these new projects. But thanks again for all the questions. We definitely want to do a lot more of this stuff in the future. So check us out, and we'll see you next time. Take care.